You're listening to the Vocabbett podcast, where I help students improve their vocabulary for the SAT, ACT, and life itself using my unique and research-backed story-based method. On this podcast, I'm sharing the best tips and tricks for a more enriched vocabulary and pain-free test day. Hello, and welcome to episode 76 of the Vocabbett podcast. I'm Erica Abbott, a former English and history teacher, the author of the young adult novel Ahead of Her Time, and the founder of the eponymously named vocabulary company, Vocabbett. This is the season 2 finale. It feels like a short season, but it was around 20 episodes. I would gladly keep it going forever, but I was accepted to UCSD's college counseling program. And since I have a quarterly system, I'm able to start my first class in March. So I just kind of have to be realistic about how much time I have available. I honestly don't know exactly how that's going to play into the future of Vocabbett, but I do know that I want Vocabbett to be a profitable business, and at this point, it just really isn't. I think I've had like one new sign up in the last 6 months. So as much as I love what I'm currently doing, I can't just keep cranking out primarily free content forever. The way I see it, there are a few potential ways I could go to move forward. I could expand from SAT vocabulary into all-inclusive SAT prep, but I don't really want to do that because I can barely add 2 plus 2, so why would I help people with math? And also the SAT is dying, so I don't really want to plant my flag there. I could keep going with the current model and just continue creating primarily free stories with, a few more books or something over the years, and hope that this body of work gets purchased by some schools or, maybe another college prep company. But that's also really risky. And as a former teacher, I know that it's really hard to change a curriculum. At the public school level, it's practically impossible. At the private school level, it's just a great way to alienate teachers, and with good reason. I mean, who am I to come in and tell people to teach my book instead of a book that they've been teaching for 20 years? So not really sure that just continuing and hoping that it gets picked up by schools or something is a great idea. The third option is to write more books and just go directly to you guys, not go through the schools. But not to get too into the nitty-gritty, and it sounds kind of gauche to be talking so much about finances, but I always like it when the people I listen to kind of pull back the curtain on some of their decision-making, so I thought I'd do the same for you guys. So the deal with writing books is that, you make like $3 a book. So unless you're a mega bestseller, which I don't think any vocabulary boosting book, as fun as it is really going to be a huge phenomenon. Even if you sell thousands and thousands of books, that's still like less than $10,000 for a year of work. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to continue writing because it's just something that I love doing. I can't really help myself. But in terms of creating a solid foundation on which to build Vocabbett, I don't know that I can really just say, okay, I'm going to write more SAT prep books. Maybe I could. I don't know. That's kind of, I think, the second best option. Where this basically leaves me is with college counseling, because the advice I've consistently gotten is SAT vocabulary is too niche. You either need to do all SAT prep or college prep or something like that. And I've recently become really interested in the world of independent college counseling. In the past, independent college counselors basically catered to the ultra elite, and they helped little Johnny polish his Harvard application. But recent studies show that about 26% of what they call high-achieving families, basically families with kids with a decent SAT score, 26% of those families now employ an independent college counselor. And the score that you have to get above is not that high of a score. So it's like 26% of millions and millions of families. And that number is only projected to grow because the average student only receives 45 minutes of college counseling from their school. And when you think about what an enormous expense in both time and obviously money college is, you really want to make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, that you're choosing the right school, that you're applying for the right scholarships. You want to go into it with a clear head. To be honest, I have slightly mixed feelings about going down that route, but I can't tell how much of it is just my ego getting in the way. I always kind of saw myself as an author when I grew up and, helping people apply to college. It's not quite as, I can't really put my finger on it, but I do know that this is a really difficult experience for a lot of people. It's notoriously painful and stressful. And I also know that, not to brag, but that is kind of one of my skills, is simplifying things and just making things easier and more pain-free. So I do feel like I could help a lot of people with this. If nothing else, getting the certificate can't hurt. And a side benefit, which seems kind of crazy to think about right now, but in order to maintain good standing in all of these college counselor organizations, you have to do 20 college visits a year. And a lot of that is kind of suspended right now because of COVID, but it will probably come back at some point. And my thought is that, long term, so after the certificate is done, I'll be able to create a more symbiotic relationship between the fun, vocabulary, and history side of things and the college counseling side of things. I can kind of use that to pay the bills and make this a proper business. But then while I'm doing these college visits, I can be doing research for future books and refilling that creative well and just really create kind of a nice ecosystem here. Not quite sure how it's all going to shake out yet, but since I'm going to be going radio silent for a while, I'm probably going to fall off your radar. Definitely be sure to subscribe to the podcast and or sign up for the Vocabbett mailing list. It's just called the A-list on the Vocabbett website. That way, when I do come back and have a course that simplifies this or start taking on individual students for tutoring or something like that, you guys will know, and I'll definitely offer you guys some kind of preferential rate. It's bittersweet because I love doing this podcast so much, but I also want to make sure that I'm continuing to grow. And I do love learning, so there's no real downside to getting a certificate in college counseling. Just means that I can be that much more helpful to you guys in about 6 months. I will see you then.